A very good day and welcome to the Breakfast Club on Asake Online. My name is Sizwakele Ndlovu, and I would like to take this opportunity to wish you compliments of the season and we hope for a very fruitful 2022. On the program today, I'm going to be chatting to Janet Zhou, and she is a spokesperson for Fight Inequality Alliance Zimbabwe. They have an online event going on, and we are going to find out more about that. So without further ado, Janet, welcome to the Breakfast Club. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cesar. It's great to be here. Listeners, viewers, how are you? Welcome to our program.
Fantastic. So Janet, I would like to have a discussion on what Fight Inequality Alliance Zimbabwe is all about. Please just give us some background and details about it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Cesar, for this opportunity. And we are very grateful for this opportunity to be on site today, Asake, because Fight Inequality Zimbabwe is a very nascent movement in Zimbabwe, which we began mobilizing for last year in 2021. We had been doing activities under the Global Week of Action Against Inequalities, which we are going to talk about more during the program, but it wasn't as coherent and established and, more of institutionalizing it like we then began to do in 2021. So it is great to be on this platform to introduce the Fight Inequality Zimbabwe Alliance, which currently is an alliance with 18 members who are social movements representing women's groups, faith-based organizations, individuals, research institutions, NGOs, community-based organizations that work around issues of reducing poverty, issues of social and economic justice, issues around political participation, governance, and human rights. And the alliance members are working, like I said, around challenging inequalities in terms of access to wealth, in terms of access to power, in terms of access to opportunities, in terms of social status, and access and control of resources in Zimbabwe. So the alliance itself, we formalized it last year, and we have been over the past year and now trying to mobilize and organize citizens to be active in Zimbabwe and to link with the Fight Inequality Global Alliance. So when we are talking about the Fight Inequality Alliance, we are talking about a global alliance, but that has got chapters, national alliances, like the one that we have in Zimbabwe. So we are a big, broad-based network that feeds into the global alliance, which is fighting in the struggle to reverse inequalities and its impact for the achievement of just, equitable, and a prosperous society. And this is not only in Zimbabwe, but at the global level. So the organizing is really around challenging spaces like the World Economic Forum as an example, to say, how do we bring in alternative voice? How do we bring in alternative policy making, alternative ways of doing business so that we don't exacerbate inequalities? Because the issue of inequalities, they are unjust, they are undemocratic, they disproportionately benefit only a few, whilst the majority suffer. So we're very excited to have a formalized alliance in Zimbabwe, and we hope to grow this alliance and to have as many of community-based organizations representative of different issues and sectors and regions in Zimbabwe that are mostly even affected by these inequalities, by marginalization, by exclusion, by those that are in power.
It's a very broad-based network as well. And yes, for those who might be inquiring, how does one become a member of the alliance?
Yes, thank you. So we do have the criteria for membership, which is given to us by the Fight Inequality Alliance, the Global Alliance. anyone who is doing work that challenges inequalities. It could be gender inequality, it could be marginalization of people with disabilities, it could be marginalization of the youth, women, it could be a regional issue, it could be a sectoral issue. They can all be members if they would want to join in and bring their voice on the table to challenge such inequalities, marginalization, and exclusion. And currently, the Zimbabwe Coalition on Data and Development, ZimCOD, which is the organization that I work for, is hosting the alliance. So for anyone or any organization or individual or activist who would want to be a member of the Fight Inequality Alliance is welcome to bring in their program, to bring in their voice, to bring in their project within the Fight Inequality Alliance. And the benefit is that we give each other solidarity. We amplify the voice. You're not the only one who has to speak out about your issue. People that are so maybe you may consider disconnected from your issue can speak on your behalf, can profile your issue until we challenge these issues and the voices become more and more and we build the movement. So for anyone who would want to be part of the Fight Inequality Alliance Zimbabwe and join the Global Alliance, they can reach out to the Zimbabwe Coalition on Data and Development and they will be registered as a member, and we can work together in giving each other solidarity, in giving each other the platforms and the voice that we need for us to challenge the inequalities in Zimbabwe and across the globe.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Janet. So it is true that there's power in numbers. So we have to come together. We have to break down the silos because there is so much work to be done. And we cannot afford to just be doing our own little thing over there. Somebody's running off doing their own thing. We have to just come together and make a mass effort to drive change. Yes. You started off this year with a bang. You are in the middle of the Global Week of Action Against Inequality. Please tell me more about that and the activities that you're undertaking during the week and what your aims and objectives are at the end of this week. What do you hope to have said, we've done this and we are on the road to getting here?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So we are joining, like you have said, with the Global Fight Inequality Alliance for the Global Week of Action Against Inequalities, which we have actually commemorated parallel to the Davos World Economic Forum for the past 3 or 4 years. But like I said, I think it was a very loose network. We were doing that which we could with just a few members, but the membership has grown, the voice has grown. So during this week, the Global Week of Action, which is running from the 15th of January to the 22nd of January, we are holding hands, we're building a voice around fighting inequality, and this is running under the theme called Time to Tax the Rich and Build People's Recovery Plans for COVID-19. So we have seen that, especially for us as well as Zimbabwe, the issue of taxation and regressive taxation is a big issue. We continue to see that the majority of the citizens are being taxed heavily, multiple taxes. If you are formally employed, you pay payee, you pay VAT, you pay 2% tax on your transactions. You know, it's multiple taxation. And whilst this is happening, we have a few elites, business elites, political elites, who are getting away actually with tax incentives, which we are saying that they're actually harmful because this is revenue that could have been used, which is why now we're linking it with the COVID-19, maybe to respond to the impacts of COVID-19, not only as a health crisis, but as a social and economic crisis, the impacts that we suffered, the informal sector. We need a stimulus package, economic stimulus package. We need resources. We are suffering from debt distress, austerity measures, cutting down on social spending in the education, in the health, and the like. So we are linking this under this theme to raise a voice where we are saying, let us consider taxing the rich, putting the wealth tax, because ours is an informal sector as well. So it's difficult to really tax people. But if we are to go by the lifestyle audits that were once promised in 2020, we can actually tax those that are rich more. It's not that we have anything against them, but they, according to, you know, the purposes of tax in terms of redistribution, this is one of the ways that we have to be targeting this. And there are examples like Norway, where they heavily tax those who earn more, then redistribute, and you go there, you get your free health, you get your free education, you get your free percentage of water and the like. So we are saying during the Global Week of Action, this is the voice that we are trying to raise. So we have been organizing on online platforms, sharing information, the impact of COVID-19, the impact of inequalities, how extreme poverty is increasing, and how wealth continues to concentrate in a few private hands, even in Zimbabwe. We can literally count and say so and so and so and so have got the money. They're the ones who drive the Porsche cars. They're the ones who live in the leafy suburbs and mansions. They're the ones who are really like living on our behalf. But we have the numbers, and the idea is to mobilize on the digital platforms. So we have a number of activities we are doing on the digital platforms. But in the communities, we've also created information cafes, almost in all our areas of operation, where we have put in as much information as we can in terms of how inequalities, how unemployment, how extreme poverty continues to increase and to exacerbate, and calling for alternatives, alternative economic policies that considers the marginalized, that considers the K-economy and the like. So we have information cafes that are also running on the ground. We have the digital platforms, and in line with the digital platforms, tomorrow, the 18th, we are actually hosting a Twitter space where we're having very prominent voices around the issue of taxation and how we can use taxes by taxing the rich to actually then redistribute the wealth. We have the likes of Mukasiri Sivanda, Dr. Alex Magaisa, Maxwell Lawson. These are great people around the issue of taxation that are going to be in a Twitter space tomorrow at 18:30 p.m., where we will be unpacking more around this issue. We are hoping that at the end of the Global Week of Action, we'll do our press conferences, we'll do our press statement, we'll have our action plan in terms of taking the week further, because during the whole year, there are issues that we are raising during the week, or the demands that we have during the week. We have put them down, and these have to do with reforms in the country's tax regimes. It has to do with the issue of launching the intensive lifestyle audits that the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission actually promised in 2020. We are calling on the review of the 2% tax as an example to be in line with the poverty datum line. Those are some of the examples and the outcomes that we hope to continue to carry forward. And we are hoping that would have built even a more broader movement, more membership coming in, so that we carry on with the activities that that we have to then be engaging with at the policy level, in terms of engaging with different policy makers for these demands or these calls that we have when it comes to our solution holders.
Okay. So Janet, from what I'm understanding, you have been keeping a track record, as it were, of certain things. Like you said, the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission promised something in 2020, and there's been so many activities that you've been tracking, and all you're saying now is, can we go back? How far have we come with that? And what's the way forward? And let us, it seems like a case of, I was thinking when you were talking and saying, no, let's tax the rich. And I was like, okay, it doesn't affect me now because I'm far from being rich. But at some point I was like, what happens the day I do get rich? But obviously the society that made you rich has to get something back in return as well. And like you said, it's not punishment, it's a just return to the society that serves you.
That is what is called progressive taxation. And
Yes.
a tax system has to be progressive. And the way it is progressive is it taxes the corporates, it taxes the rich, it redistributes. That's the only way we will reduce inequalities. Because if we continue to tax the poor, put, the multiple taxes that we have seen, they will remain poor and they will continue to be pressed down to extreme poverty levels. We talk about 50%, 49.9% of Zimbabweans being in extreme poverty, and we continue to tax those. But those are people that still have to send their children to school, that still have to pay hospital bills because public hospitals are not functioning. They're the ones who have to use combis because the ZUP codes that the government has to say subsidize or provide are not adequate to provide the transport needs. So it's a whole lot, and the government has to raise. We cannot talk about reducing inequalities without a budget. And the only way to then have a budget is domestic resource mobilization. That is the only way it can be sustainable, so that we don't depend on debt, on loans, on aid. So, and domestic resource mobilization, taxes is the biggest. If you go in our budget, even for 2022, and you look at where we're going to get most of our revenue, it is from taxes. And those taxes are the biggest contributors are going to be our payee, are going to be our VAT, are going to be our customs, excise duty, and we're talking about cross-border traders being impacted the most. Then you get your corporate tax and the other taxes coming in to contribute at some point, like down below. But that becomes regressive taxation. You continue to squeeze the citizens, and it's kind of a time bomb, even because it causes, a lot of conflicts, a lot of, discoherence amongst the society. But progressive taxation will realize that even if we tax them, they will not die. They already have a lot of resources, and you can give them many other incentives in terms of creating an enabling business environment for them to operate. If you go and just check on Norway, for example, their taxes on their oil and gas, they tax up to 78%, and they still say it's okay for you to remain with 22% on your profits. That's still a lot. 22% of a lot is a lot, what you're going to remain with. Then they redistribute, and you will realize that it contributes to development, it contributes to peace, it contributes to freedoms being enjoyed by the citizens, and inequality and its potential of causing friction, of causing conflicts is reduced, and will be in a more peaceable society. People will live in dignity and the like. So we need to consider this and know that it is not punishment. It is actually what is called a progressive taxation system that recognizes that tax has to play its role of redistributing resources. There is no point of others living in the sea of plenty whilst others are living and languishing in poverty. We need those resources, and they can come from tax.
Janet, I think this discussion could go on for a couple more hours, but in the interest of time, you've mentioned that we are having this initiative this 1 week from the 15th to the
22nd.
What can the ordinary man on the street, the Twitter warrior, the Facebook people, what can we do to be a part of this? How do you participate? You mentioned the information cafes, but in terms of participation, you did mention there's a Twitter space later on, but on the general social media streets, what can the ordinary man do? How can we be a part of this week of inequality, protest against inequality?
Yes, okay, thank you very much. So the Fight Inequality Alliance Zimbabwe has got a Twitter space, and I think it says FIA, FIA Zimbabwe. So people can follow, so that you are able to follow the events, you're able to get as much information as possible in terms of what is happening with other alliances across the globe that are doing a lot of work to raise this theme of taxing the rich and the post-COVID-19 recovery. So please do follow the Fight Inequality Alliance Zimbabwe's Twitter space for more information around the events that will be coming. We have hashtags that are going in terms of fight inequality, tax the rich, hashtag Mbingatex. You know, these are all hashtags that we have put in place for us to raise awareness around this issue of inequality. And from where people are sitting in the digital spaces, I just wanted to raise this, that the voice and the message is one. We want to abandon unjust austerity measures that are continuing to squeeze and asking the ordinary citizen to tighten their belts, while it's actually a few are loosening their belts because they're getting fatter and fatter out of public funds, out of public resources, from procurement irregularities, looting of resources, smuggling, illicit financial flows. So we are calling for the abandonment of unjust austerity measures. We are calling, as you do your tweeting, for full implementation of devolution of power and authority away from the central, which is Harare, to lower tiers of government provided for in the Constitution. And when we are talking about authority and power, we are talking about fiscal devolution. So we want local authorities, local tiers of government to have that power to make decisions, fiscal decisions in terms of distribution of wealth. We are calling on restraint of dominant monopolies in the economic sectors. We know who is dominant in the telecoms. We know who is dominant in the energy. We know who is dominant in the infrastructure, road reconstruction. You know, we need to be challenging that and regulating the ability of dominant players to just raise consumer prices and inflate prices of the services that they are providing. So as you tweet, as you share, this is one of the key points that you could also be raising. The other issue is about calling for democratic oversight by Parliament, Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, the National Prosecuting Authority. The issue of institutions in terms of dealing with inequalities is a big issue that we need to be raising. Porous borders, how do we close them? How do we capacitate ZIMRA? How do we work with the RBZ, the fidelity printers? How do we work with the ministries, the Minister of Finance, Minister of Social Welfare, in terms of distribution of resources? So we are calling on activists, we are calling on community-based organizations, national organizations, everyone, every Zimbabwean that feels that this is a just cause to talk about and to call out when it comes to the issue of inequality, when it comes to the issue of social and economic injustices that are brought about by extreme poverty, by unemployment, harassment of the informal sector, marginalization of certain groups of people. Let us come together and please do find us on the Fight Inequality Alliance Twitter spaces, handles that we have, even joining the global alliance itself, the Fight Inequality Alliance, Global Fight Inequality Alliance. Just do your search there on the Twitter and you get hold of us, and we can be pushing these messages to our stakeholders. We hope at the end we are going to wrap it up with a press statement, which we share with the media houses, but that will also be using for engagement with policymakers on the different outcomes and demands that we'll be having. And we hope that we'll be joining hands together to do that as we challenge the key drivers of inequality and facilitate equitable distribution of national resources for the benefit of the many and not just a few in Zimbabwe. These resources belong to us. Zimbabwe is for all of us. This globe is for all of us. So issues of debt, issues of climate, issues of injustices have to be dealt with by all of us.
Okay. Janet, thank you so much. So what we are going to do for our viewers, we will have the details, the contact details, the Twitter handles, as well as the hashtags in our link on the program.
Yes, and we'll be sharing the flyer with you as well, so that we're sharing it as well with media houses like yourselves, friends and alliances like yourselves, so that we can push those flyers with the Twitter handles, with the hashtags that we have to be using throughout the week. But the idea is to make it trend. The idea is to make it get to the policymakers themselves and see that the people have indeed a reason to challenge these injustices.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Janet, thank you so much for taking time out to chat to us, and we wish you all the best in this. And it's not just your fight, it's everybody's fight. This is our issue. It affects me, it affects you, it affects everybody else. So I look forward to partnering and joining the voices to stop the inequalities. Let's level life for Zimbabweans. It's already hard enough, and let's make life just that little bit easier. You know, when you mentioned the multiple texts, And it didn't seem like our multiple tax. And when you mentioned pay as you earn, VAT 2%, and the list was just like, goodness, we have a lot to carry as citizens, and it's a lot. So we need to speak out. We need to say enough. We need a break. We need to breathe, especially after the scourge of COVID-19. Janet, any last words for viewers before we wind this down?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And once again, I just want to call you to join the Alliance. We need as many members as possible. Please reach out to ZimCode. We have a Zimbabwe Fight Inequality Alliance coordinator. She can give you all the details. You can reach out to me, but the issue is about having you as members then pushing your issues through the Alliance, and we build them for solidarity at the global level. And I hope that we're going to get as many members as possible, including yourself. Please, it will be such an honor to partner with you as well. So thank you very much for having me on this program, and I hope that we'll continue to link and to make the week a strong one, a great one. But also 2022, we have to be challenging inequalities in 2022. It is a big year we have for Zimbabwe. 2023 elections that are coming, and the questions around inequalities, I think, must be the questions that we're asking those that would want to assume public office, those that would want to take up positions in public offices, how they're going to deal with the issue of inequality, because it's a scourge, it's a virus that we have to deal with, and they have to give us their manifestos in terms of how they're going to deal with this. And I think that is my final call, to say, let us hold them accountable and ask them how far are they dealing with the issue of inequalities. Yes, thank you.
I've just had a chat with Janet Zhou, and she's the spokesperson for the Fight Inequality Alliance Zimbabwe. And this week, they are holding the Global Week of Action Against Inequality. And we have hashtags such as Tax the Rich, Mbinga Tax, Fight Inequality. This is not just the Inequality Alliance fight, it's for every single Zimbabwean. We are here to stand up and be heard. And as you mentioned, these are some of the issues we need to be talking about in terms of elections, to say, let's call people to account. Let's ask them, what are you going to do? We're already having these issues. What are you going to do going forward? With that said, we'll be putting the links and all the details on the Global Alliance Inequality protest, as well as contact details for ZimCode, as well as FIA Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for watching Asake Online, and it's been a pleasure being with you today. And as mentioned, please follow us at SiteZW. We are on Facebook or on YouTube. We've got our website. We have fantastic content, and we look forward to 2022 being an amazing year in terms of content and just developing and going forward in Zimbabwe. And with that said, bye for now, and see you in other programs. Thank you.